Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast, episode 24. I'm 10 Types, joined by Uncommon Fossil, and today we're actually live on YouTube. Yay! But that doesn't really matter. So, anything you want to say before we kick things off?
Well, live on 10 Types channel, not mine, because I have technical difficulties with this, but we'll see. If we ever get a time sorted out, it could become, I guess, useful. But now, because it's live, it'll show up as a replay under your live tab, correct, for future
Well, I'm also going
generations
to upload it as
as a regular video. So,
yeah. You can watch it. Well, you can watch us struggle with technical difficulties for like 5 minutes before we start, if you want.
yes, you can hear me annoy 10 Types by my inability to live stream. So if you want, you can catch that there. And then no, I mean we're gonna just talk about Chilling Reign, and I'll just at this point just to know where people are in terms of live and the whole development saga of live. Live just did the second update in back-to-back weeks, where there were the 6-band cards, Spiritomb, and all the ability lock cards have been put back into play again, and I think they managed to once again successfully do what they want without causing a lot of trouble. So yes, they've
Yeah.
set
Well, I realized the one they fixed before was Gardevoir, right?
yes.
But I don't think that I didn't actually fix it. Like if you concede during your opponent's turn, it still crashes.
Does it?
I know that.
Okay.
I think. I don't.
I'm not
I've been
sure.
told that Gardevoir doesn't work. It's quite right. So.
I don't know. I haven't played it. I think if you can accelerate energies to cards that are recovered, that was the big thing they were looking to fix.
I guess they're both obviously major issues with the card, though. It's still not. I wouldn't say it's. I'd say it's still kind of unplayable with. Like if either glitches there, it's still kind of unplayable because like if your game crashes every time, like that's still bad.
Yeah, I mean Gardevoir might not be a safe play in live. I'm not sure. I don't really. It's not my preferred deck anyway, so I'm not playing a lot. But obviously, it needs to work. And even if they fixed it, they took a long time to fix the Gardevoir issue, around 2 weeks or so for this ability lock issue, which is speedy for live, but certainly not.
Wait, Paldea Evolve's only been out for 2 weeks.
I don't think I'm not so sure that the issue was there the whole time. No, it's been out longer, and maybe it's longer than 2 weeks. I could be wrong on that. I'm not sure if they didn't do something that caused that glitch.
Okay.
But even if it's 2 weeks, it needs to be faster than that with less bugs.
Yeah, and it takes like the whole day for them to fix it too, which like they probably changed. Actually, that's probably a bit of a harder one to fix. But still, it should take like an hour. Like if they're like actually trying, like it should take if it. I suppose if they only put one. Well, no, like it's not gonna take one person 8 hours anyway. It would take one person 1 hour to fix.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I think there's some other server issues going on. Was part of why they're doing more stuff, but it needs to get better in a lot of ways. I think we can say that. And if people want to know your true feelings about live, please go to 10 Types channel and check out his diss track for live. He expresses things very well there.
exactly. I don't even need to promote it. And anyway, so let's just hop into the ranking the cards. So we're going in alphabetical order because
It's not a ranking though, right? I mean, we're
we're not. We're just talking about them.
I mean, we
but,
can rank them some if you want, but
yeah, some of them are definitely bad. I'm
yeah, and
looking
we're
at
not going to
cast.
discuss all of them because there's too many cards for that.
Yeah, like I see Bronzong. I don't really think we're gonna talk about that one.
Well, you love
No,
that
Bronzong
card.
wasn't like actually in the set though.
No,
Like
I know
it was
it was an alternate art.
yeah. Anyway,
There's
so
a
let's
couple,
start off. Or just something you want to say first?
no. I assume you want to do Pokemon first. There's a couple energies, some good trainers, and a bunch of Pokemon. We'll want to start with the Pokemon.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, to me, there's a couple the single prize medal, but Blaziken is the first meaningful Pokemon. Would you agree?
Yeah, Blaziken Vmax, which what it does is it just accelerates special energy or any energy, but often special energy to your benched Rapid Strike Pokemon from the discard, and it does 130 for 2 colorless. So I don't know. You played this one a lot, right?
Yeah, this is one I enjoyed a lot. Now, this is the set right after Battle Styles, which introduced the first of the Battle Styles, Rapid Strike and Single Strike, with the Ursa Foods, the Octillery, the accelerating one for Single Strike, which I'm blanking on.
Yeah, Houndoom.
Houndoom. And then they started adding in some more Rapid Strike and Single Strike cards here, which are some of the important cards here. Certainly Blaziken in of itself isn't good, but the Rapid Strike package, it's for 2 energy is the cost for Max Blaze on this VMAX. It does 130 damage, which is sketchy, but then you accelerate 2 energies to your bench Rapid Strike Pokemon of any type of energy you want. So you can pay for the cost, the attack with 1 Rapid Strike energy, and then you had Spiral Energy came out in this set, so I guess that's
Yeah.
yes, but as well as Impact, which is an important energy with this too, because that's a Rapid Strike energy, or it works with Rapid Strike Pokemon only, and it's any type of energy. So that was a good option for different Rapid Strike boxes, or a Sylveon box too. It gave options to Rapid Strike decks, which I liked.
Yeah, I think it's okay. There's another card that I synergy with, which we'll talk about later.
Yep.
But it wasn't that good. I don't know. I think it was okay in Sylveon. I don't think you really want to play it with Ursa Foods. I don't know. I think it's okay. It's interesting. It's kind of like Thunderous EX, but I don't know. I found it a little boring still, or at least a bit like weak and underpowered.
Yeah, I mean, 130 damage obviously wasn't great, so it was there to set up other things. And at this point we had Cheryl, right, in the game, correct?
Yeah.
So
Shell came out in Battle Styles.
So with Cheryl, you could heal up all of your evolution Pokemon in this, which would go in the discard pile, any energies attached to those, and then you could, when attached to Blaziken, get the energy back into play too. So you potentially could be tanky with this card too.
Yeah. I think water was good before
Water
this
was
and
a
after this,
water was
and
a
in this set.
danger. Yes, but
It's a card.
there's a bunch of cards in this set that I liked a lot that you don't like as much. And we're talking about it now. I think the next card fits in the same thing. Should we move on to that?
Yeah.
Which is Blissey V, right?
Mhm.
So, and I like Blissey V. I still like it. I'm looking forward to getting it, to dusting it off and trying it out again in live now that it has some of the tools back. But it's 250 HP, so tanky for a V Pokemon. You had Cape of Toughness at the time, and now we have Bravery Charm, which adds 50 more. It goes up to 300 HP on a V Pokemon, so that's very good. And then Blissful Blast does 10 damage, okay, but then does 30 more for each energy attached to this Pokemon. And if you do any damage with this attack, you can attach up to 3 energy cards from the discard pile to this Pokemon. And it's not restricted to basic energy. They can be special energy, which we had powerful energy and a lot of good special energies at the time, too. So a decent card. It's one that I thought worked better than I expected it to once I started using it when Blissey with Miltank. When Miltank came out, that certainly kicked the deck up, too. So, but it's a decent V, I would say.
It's okay. Yeah. I mean, it's like tanky. You kind of, because a lot of the healing was like discarding energy, so you'd
Yes.
get hit and then you'd heal and then you'd get rid of all your energy and not do any damage.
Mm-hmm.
You'd just be stuck in the cycle where you're not really doing much of anything. It's really good if your opponent like doesn't do anything all game, but I don't know.
Like it's all the things you hate in a deck. It's a slow deck, which it was for sure. Because
I don't despise slow decks,
but because Sharon's Care wasn't out yet, right? That was Brilliant Stars.
Yeah, that was Brilliant Stars.
So, but which fit in with this too. So you could heal it up by putting it into your hand. Essentially, you put it in your hand, right? So, but then you lose all the energy. The energies go in your hand too, but they're not in play anymore. So that's not good. But it would start slow, and you'd hope you didn't get knocked out too fast. And then once you had the Miltank, you could usually buy a turn or two of that, and the combination gave you a chance to win. I think is what it was, and it was a very straightforward deck. You weren't playing much of an engine, and you didn't have a lot of options for tech cards generally with this deck.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you could also play it with like Bronzong. You'd accelerate like Aurora energy into play
Yeah.
and move around with Bronzong, which is like a thing as well.
Yep.
But that never really took off. But I thought that was like an interesting idea too. But I don't know. It's a bit weak. You could play it with like Lugia as well, which is okay, I guess. It's like a late game finisher.
Yeah, yes, you can do that, and it is a way. If you want to do Lugia, you can recover those special energies from the discard that you can't necessarily recover. So it had potential there, although it had its limitations for sure too.
Yeah. But let's move on to, I think, the next Pokemon here, which is Zebstrika. This
Okay.
one says when your other Rapid Strike Pokemon used an attack last turn, you do 120 for one colorless on stage 1 as a lightning. This is okay in something. I don't know. There's still a niche play. None of the
Yeah.
4 hitting lightning weakness, which is okay. So I think that's worth mentioning, but not going into too much.
No.
And then we come to cast form there, right?
Let me make sure. Yeah. Now you are. Yes. I mean, you skipped over the alt art Bronzong, which is a decent Pokemon, but
Yeah,
it's just an alternate art, so not very important. So
yeah.
yes, then we have the cast form, which was one of my favorites. And if you saw the live stream earlier on 10 Types channel, you got to see him try to put together a cast form deck, and it worked. I think his build wasn't optimal, but
I think the deck's bad.
the
I
deck's
think
it's got its
cast form is bad.
limitations. So we have 4 cast form Pokemon. We have rainy form, snowy form, sunny form, and cast form, which is colorless. They all have weather reading ability. If you have it was 8 or more stadiums in the discard pile, you ignore all energy costs for the Pokemon's attack. So that's quite nice, right? It's fun. It's a kind of a gimmicky meme deck. I grant you that. You can do decent damage though. There's 2 solid attacking options. The big hitter is the Sunny form. It does 150 damage, which isn't bad for a single prize Pokemon. They all have free retreat too, so it gives you that pivot. You have to have a stadium in play, and then it gets discarded. So but you're playing a lot of stadiums anyway, so you can usually do that. So 150 is okay. Obviously, you're not one-shotting a multi-prize Pokemon, but you're generally two-shotting them. And then you have the snowy form, which does 120 damage. And then it can't attack the next turn, but again, it's free retreat, so you can pivot into another snowy form, whichever one you want to attack with. The colorless one wasn't very useful, I didn't think. It would hit for 80, which is less than the other 2, and then you would draw, so you have 6 cards in hand, but the draw ability didn't really help because you couldn't attack until you were set up, so I always felt that didn't make sense. And then the rainy form did 20 damage to all your opponent's Pokemon, so that's not bad. Sometimes you could clean things up, like you could hit a Mew twice with Sunny Form, finish it off with Rainfall. It felt good when you did stuff like that, but it's not the best deck.
Yeah, it's not the best deck.
It's not a good deck. Okay, I will
I think
acknowledge that.
it struggles a ton against spread,
Oh well,
um,
spread is just
which is
yes,
pretty
it's
common.
doomed. Yes, you're doomed with spread, and the net damage number is not quite enough, and you don't set up consistently fast enough. Other than that, the deck's good, and the types aren't really the types you want for weakness. If it was like a fighting one and a dark one in cast form, they added those. All of a sudden, it becomes more of an option.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Um,
that's more than enough time on that, I assume.
yeah. Next up, we have another VMAX here, which is Celebi, which is actually one I like. Which has first of all, it's like HP is kind of low. It's only 310, which is kind of annoying. But it has an ability that says once during your turn, you heal 20 from each of your grass Pokemon. And you can use this with each Celebi. Additionally, Max Plant for Grass Colorless does 130, which isn't great. But then you search your deck for 2 Pokemon, presumably other parts of the Celebi line, reveal them and put it in your hand, and then shuffle your deck. Compare this to Orbeetle VMAX, which was actually a really fun VMAX. And then you get to do that. So you just get to hopefully get up a bunch of Celebes and maybe something else like Orbeetle or some other VMAX that's grass probably, and then just heal and switch around and stuff. And it's very difficult to KO the Celebes because you're healing possibly 80 every turn. So I always found this deck really cool, but it's the low HP is bad as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't own a copy of the Celebi, of the V or the VMAX, so it's not one that I have played really at all. I mean, the part of it is the grass Pokemon aren't great, right? So therefore, if you had a stronger grass attacker, this might be more valuable, is what I'd say.
Yeah, I think Celebi itself is okay. It's not great. It doesn't hit super hard, but oftentimes, with a choice belt or whatever, it's good enough to get there. Um, and also the V is okay. It allows you to accelerate energies, and there's another one that searches for Pokemon that it is since rotated, but you'd play that Celebi often as well. So I don't know. I think Celebi was an interesting one. It's one of the best grass Pokemon of the Sword and Shield era too. Which isn't a good
it
thing.
could be true, but right, that's right, says more. Well, no, I mean, I'd put Delmise above it, but
Oh, I wouldn't.
I mean, it's not like either one towers above the other anyway. We
No.
could debate it, but it's a debate of like, like C tier Pokemon, which is the best grass Pokemon. So it's not much glory to the winner there.
Yeah. No. Okay, and then let's see. I guess we'll talk about Cresselia. Right?
Mhm.
You don't want to talk about Graplock.
No, I think we can skip to Cresselia.
Graplock's a control Pokemon. I'll say real quick, but it's fine. And then Cresselia here is if you go second, and it's your first turn, you get to accelerate 3 Psychic Energy for one. You use 1 Psychic to accelerate 3 to one of your bench Pokemon. Otherwise, you only accelerate 1, and then Photon Laser, 2 Psychic. But if you have 5 energy in play, including the 2 on it, then you do 90 more, so you do 120. Yep. This is okay. It saw some playing Shadow Rider.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. It's not that good, unfortunately.
No, it's okay. I think you get it if you buy the Shadow Rider League Battle deck that you can get in the store, the shop on in live. But then I think I probably would get rid of it shortly after that. But it's okay.
Yeah.
Are we all right? So we're jumping ahead some here, I think, right? To
the birds, right?
Yeah, you want to hit Galarian Articuno? Or no?
Yeah, you played this, right? You played in Cast Form, probably?
Cast Form in a few decks. So Galarian Articuno, it had an ability that was useful if you wanted to discard. So it's a V, 210 HP, reconstitute, and you discard 2 cards from hand and to draw 1 card. So it's the reverse of what you usually want. Usually you want to build your hand. Here you're thinning your hand, but it has synergy if you want cards in the discard pile. So Cast Form. I might have tried it out with Rotom V, and all these high-powered decks that want this type of engine to it. So you could do it, and then you were cards obviously that would draw to fill your hands, so you could use it as a pair. The attack was almost, I don't know, people, I never really used the attack, 110 with Psyray for 3 energy, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now confused, but usually that's not what you wanted to do.
Yeah. I think the Articuno V is like okay. It's interesting. Out of the birds, it's definitely the worst one, but
yeah.
It exists. It's playable sometimes.
Yeah, look, it's worth keeping in mind because some decks will want this card, right? And you could even do it now with the new Med Party deck, right? Which I'm blanking on.
Yeah, the United Wings.
United Wings, right? A deck like that, it's a consideration.
And then next up we do have this Galarian Surfetched, which seems kind of weird because it's like breaking up the birds. But anyway, Galarian Surfetched is it does so it's a single strike stage 1 fighting. If this Pokemon has a tool for 3 energy, you get to do 160 damage. That's pretty good. That being said, it's like kind of awkward, kind of weird.
Yeah,
so I don't know. I think it's all right.
It's not that good. I mean, you'd really need Houndooms to accelerate to it, I would think.
You can now do it with reversal energy.
You can now.
I messed around with a tiny bit.
Okay. I mean, back in the day, you had to use Houndoom, and then usually you had better options than this to accelerate to. It obviously increases the damage, but
it's okay.
Is
Ursa Foods in this set? Yeah, I think Ursa Foods is in this set. So we'll talk about that, which is a little better.
Mm-hmm. I'm not. Then we have Galarian Moltres, right? The V with 220 HP. So that's the number you want. It dark type, and this is a very good card that certainly saw play in multiple decks. Your Dire Wing Flames ability, once during your turn, you may attach a dark energy card from your discard pile to this Pokemon. You couldn't use more than 1 Dire Wings ability per turn, so even if you have multiple Moltres Vs on the bench, you can only accelerate to 1 once. But obviously, and it's then for 3 energy for the attack. It does 190, a nice number. You can buff it up to 220 with Choice Belt, which obviously is a really good number to hit. It does 190, but then it does 30 damage to itself. So therefore, your attack goes from 220 down to 190 itself. So it gets one shot. Then gets finished off by your opponent, or if your opponent hit into you, you actually can't use. If you use your attack, you knock yourself out. Which those type of things would happen in games too. But obviously, Eternatus was around, and other dark decks that this was a nice option, I thought.
Yeah, and Psychic was really good when this hit came out. We'll
Yep.
talk about that later, but this was like the best. It's honestly one of the best Dark Pokemon I've seen in quite a while because it powers itself up. It's
Hmm.
pretty low maintenance, but it also gets energy on the board for you to pair with other things, and I think it's
Right.
just good. It doesn't exactly hit the numbers you're looking for, but it's okay at them.
Hmm.
It's a nice Pokemon, and it's definitely the best of the. I'd say it's the best of the birds as well.
I think it was probably the most versatile. It even went into Urshifu decks, right? Because you could accelerate to it, and then you had energy switch to Urshifu or something. That's a bit of a high roll maneuver, but there are people trying that, and it is weak to grass, which is nice because it was either weak to grass or weak to fighting, and fighting was definitely what you didn't want to be weak to. So if you're playing a dark deck, it just gave you a different weakness too, which had its place.
Yeah. Next up, we have Glenn Rapidashvi, which I think came out as a promo. No, oh, did it never get a regular art? No, I'm pretty sure
It
it
got
was a
a
promo.
it was a
Um,
promo, and then it did get, although it looks like a fancy art. So
no, it got a regular. So the way I'm looking at live, it's weird because live only shows the arts. I think that are the Chilling Rain arts. Oh no, never
no, I
mind.
see the
I didn't know.
promo also, which is the
No.
plainest art. I see a
Oh,
there's
I don't see it's not showing up for me.
all right.
Whatever. So there's a promo. Anyway, so this is a Pokemon with for 2 colors. You get to put damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon until its remaining HP is 100. This is actually pretty solid.
Hmm.
Honestly, now with double turbo, it's like all right. It's interesting because obviously it can do a bunch of damage, and you can finish things off. This was paired with Victini Vmax, I think. It was kind of weird, but
Hmm.
it's paired with that. It's useful. It can do like certain annoying combos to your opponent.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting card. You pay for it with a DTE potentially, so it doesn't have to be in a psychic deck. Like if I'm just thinking, like if you're up against the Gardevoir EX deck, you could put this in, get the gut, and it's very hard to often one shot the Gardevoir EX. Now you could finish it off the next turn. I don't, I'm not sure you want to do that because that's 2 attacks to take it out, but give some versatility there. Um,
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, it doesn't get them super low, so you still need to do like put in noticeable amounts of effort to KO stuff. But
yes.
this should even, and it's a two prize, which is annoying. But
Hmm.
it's okay. I think it's an interesting option.
Yeah, I mean, I never played it. I didn't, it didn't see much play. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I saw some though. I think in welder based decks.
Okay. All right, so next we have Galarian Slowking VMAX, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the V and VMAX, I don't know. They're both like bad. I don't really think we need to talk about them.
Okay, so they're single strike, dark types. Yeah, they're not great, so I don't mind skipping that. So
Then
is
we
there?
got Galarian. What?
You want to go to Galarian Zapdos next?
Yeah, I don't really think we need to talk about the other ones. Glenn Zapdos V. So it's really interesting. Its ability says this is a Pokemon's attack costs colors less for each Pokemon V in play.
Yep.
Keep in mind this does not work if you have tools. Oh wait, I don't remember if it works with the tools, but they give extra attacks. But I know that before doing damage, here what it says is before doing damage, discard special energy from your opponent's active, which is
Yep.
170. And so if they have 3 Pokemon V's in play, notably this is really good against Eternatus. You just like one shot an Eternatus. It
Hmm.
was very good against Eternatus. It's okay against Arceus, and it's still certainly viable now as well.
Yeah, this was a reasonable one of the birds to play. Um, so I'm trying to think. Yeah, fighting instinct, so you could power it up with one fighting energy. So it could sometimes just be that option to deal with Eternus or something, right? You could drop one in a
Yeah,
deck
yeah,
as a
especially
counter.
yeah, you want like Aurora energy or now Luminous energy to play it. It doesn't really make sense in a fighting deck too much because if you're already hitting fighting weakness. So
And because I did play it some, and then when you do the attack, it says before doing damage, discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. So that discard was before. So you got to choose the energy. So if you got rid of say a V Guard energy now, that damage reduction goes away. There are things the energy that you'd get to
weakness card.
weakness guard you could get rid. Yeah, that was very important with this. So you chuck that away, and then you could one shot that fighting weak Pokemon. So it had a place.
Yeah. Next up we have, I don't really feel like talking about Gengar because it's kind of bad.
Yeah.
Um, so I think I'll talk about probably Ice Rider, right? You want to talk about Ice Rider?
Well, yeah. We're skipping a bunch of Pokemon, but none of them are that great.
They're all kind of bad, yeah.
Yeah, so you have the Ice Rider. We have the two Calyrexes, and the first one is Ice Rider, which I've played a lot and enjoyed. I have enjoyed it a lot. So it's 320 HP, which is kind of the typical HP you expect or that you want on a VMAX. Water type, it's weak to metal, and so if that wasn't great, then that's certainly a plus as a weakness you want. And two very solid attacks. The main attack, the second one, Max Lance, does 10 damage for two water energy, but then you may discard up to 2 energies from this Pokemon. If you do, it does 120 more damage for each energy discarded, so it would do 250. And with the supporter that came out in the set too, you could, once it was set up, you could stream attacks turn after turn. You had the Inteleon engine to pair it with, which is very nice. As well as the buff that we'll get to that the Inteleon engine got. So it was a solid deck. It was not, and it became the better of the Ice Riders. I mean, the Calyrexes later on. When it first came out, though, this was the weaker of the two. And actually, the first attack was solid in a lot of matchups too. For 2 energy, it does 10 plus 30 more for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So with a single prize attacking deck, usually want to fill up the deck, you could knock them out without discarding your energy. So not bad there.
Yeah, I think it's good. We'll talk about Melanie later.
Hmm.
It's just good. I like it as obviously like one shot V's and V stars with like choice belts cool. It
Right.
struggles against, I don't know. I think it's like one of the just solid 2 energy good damage
Hmm.
ones. Now honestly it's still okay. It's still viable, I'd say. But I wouldn't really, I don't know. It's not that impressive. Either. It's kind of boring.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously without the Inteleon engine, it's that much harder. Inteleon being a water Pokemon, attacking with the Inteleons wasn't a bad option either. Could ping with the Inteleons to get the knockouts you needed because it would come up short, and it still will. Especially with EXs, you don't get Choice Belt doesn't help against those Pokemon. So it was good. It was solid. It was consistent, but it was a little underwhelming, right? Its strength was its consistency, but it would often come up short still. That's kind of how I looked at it.
Yeah. And then another one that also comes up short, right,
Oh,
is
this is like the best of the set
Malamar.
here. Yeah, Rapid Strike Malamar. I'm taking this one because you're just gonna say bad things. This is like your deck to hate on for some reason. You had some
It's so
trauma.
like unfortunate.
It's a very it was a solid deck is what I'd say. Certainly at times it was even a good deck. It was kind of a borderline top 10 deck for a single prize deck, but it was within the race for being the top single prize deck for much of its life, I would say, or at least the first year or two, right? It was like this or Med Party. Well, I mean, that might not be saying much, but so what it did, 120 HP, that's okay. It's a stage one, but for 1 psychic energy, you had Rapid Strike Tentacles attack. You revealed any number of Rapid Strike cards from your hand, and the attack did 40 damage for each card you revealed that way. Then you shuffle them into your deck. So the fact that you shuffled them in rather than discarding isn't bad, right? Obviously, you'd rather have kept them, but shuffling them in means with your engine you set up, you can get the cards back the following turn. So what would happen is if you could survive the start of the game, I would say your deck would get more and more concentrated with Rapid Strike cards. So you could, after a few turns, one shot even a big VMAX, and that was a nice feeling to take him out with this dumb little Malamar, taking out your opponent's 3 prize Pokemon.
Emphasis on dumb, right? No, but yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I've always found it kind of bad. I always ran to spread when I played this deck, and it was very
Yeah, spread's
unfortunate.
not good.
Um, like it's kind of fun. If you, I mean, it's kind of like Baby Blacephalon if you played with that deck, which is
Hmm.
cool. You just like did this big damage, but at the same time, it kind of sometimes struggles to always like hit the amount of damage. You often come up short, and if you come up short, you're just in a really bad spot. Like you don't really want to be going for 2 shots. So and then like hand
Yeah.
disruption can be annoying sometimes as well.
Hmm.
So I feel like it's a deck that like struggles to set up.
I mean, it had, the artillery, which was in the battle style set, not this one, is obviously an important rapid strike card that was key to this deck too. Generally, the deck didn't play boss. It may have played catcher because you had to your supporter had to be one to get a big hand size, so you couldn't boss essentially. So therefore, you had to hit whatever you had. I know you don't like decks that do that. You had net, which we've lost now. Net was important because you could scoop up some of those rapid strike. You could use an artillery scoop it up for the more extra damage too on turns. With the deck, you needed patience. You needed to know because you're right. Two-shotting wasn't good. A lot of times, then rather than two-shotting, I would just almost do no damage or very little damage just to try to set up the next turn. So you needed to know when to make that play with the deck, and it was certainly a top 10 deck at times for sure. I think.
Maybe I don't know. I think there were times when it was certainly borderline top 10. I don't know if it was definitely top 10, but
Yeah, it
yeah.
was a playable deck.
Yeah. Anyways, I think we should move on
Yes.
to actually no. There's one other thing. The people were there are different ways of playing it. You play with like Inteleon or
Yeah.
Curly or Chinchino. So people are always like arguing over that.
That's right.
But I don't know, I think the Italian way was the best way. I mean, it was like rapid strikes, which was good, and you could do what you wanted. But you like the other villains,
I like
right?
Cinchino. I mean, Inteleon, I know you don't want to talk more about it, but Inteleon set up faster, which was a plus. The Cinchino or the Curlia build, which is what you do now, gets better as the game progresses. So you could take the big knockout, whereas the Italian engine actually got worse as the game went on because you used up your nets and stuff. So they kind
Yeah.
of, the one started well, it might not finish. The other wouldn't start well, but if you could survive the start, you could win.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's definitely like up to you though. It's not great now though, but it's not completely unviable either.
No.
But next up we have Kecleon, which is kind of interesting. It wasn't really ever good in standard. There's some kind of silly combos you can do,
Yeah.
but they're all kind of bad. So instead, you have compare with an expanded. It was really good with like dark stuff. There's some like weird Eternus combo with Weavile and Darkrai and uh something else. I don't remember. You like move energy around and like shrink
hmm
and expand your bench. So it was kind of fun. But there's a thing that exists, but not. I don't know. We're not really gonna talk about that.
Well, look, it's got a soft spot to me because this is what we did the pre-release for this expansion, and this is what I got in my pre-release kit.
I
So
got Kecleon.
I believe I did. Yes.
Oh
That,
no, yes, Smeargle,
oh, Smeargle. I'm
which was
sorry.
not this set. That was a
Oh, you're
different
right.
set.
So, but I did make obviously the Kecleon with the Chroma Shift ability. I don't know if you actually said what that did. It's the
Oh yeah, I
same
did say.
type. It becomes the same type as any basic energy you have, and you can have multiple types. And actually, when this first came out, you had Fairy also, right? So, um, you had what 9 types potentially it could be. You lose
Yeah,
colorless once you attach to it, and you obviously can never be Dragon type because that isn't an energy type as such. Um, and you could, I tried it with Sylveon, which wanted different types of Pokemon, and you could obviously try to hit for weakness, but it's certainly a reach, I guess, is what I'd say.
yeah. Anyway, so let's move on to Weezing.
Okay.
The one Weezing doubles for any energy, basic dark energy attached to Weezing. It doubles the amount of dark it provides,
Yep.
which is kind of interesting. You can play this in decks like Darkrai V-Star to
Right.
increase the amount of dark energy you had, which is good. And then you can also still do that. And Weezing, there's this other Weezing.
hmm
Pretty much it does more damage for each dark energy attached to all your Pokemon. Obviously meant to combo with the other Weezing. It was always an
Yeah.
interesting idea. Notably, there was another really good Glaring Weezing that like ability locked your opponent.
Yeah.
So that was pretty notable. I don't know, this deck was never that good though.
No, I mean, right. You could use the Energy Factory in some decks, but generally it wasn't that great. And yes, when it came out, the stronger Galarian Weezing was the better option most of the time. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have the Ursa Foods,
Yep.
but the single prize one. So the Rapid Strike one, there's more for each Rapid Strike Pokemon you have in play. This is kind of okay, but notably the Cub Food, which of all the both Ursa Foods is not any battle styles, so that's kind of annoying. It was an interesting concept. but it just doesn't hit hard enough. And then, but the single striker shoe is actually good. So it has Fist of Strife, so it does for dark colors you do 100, but if you have any
Yeah.
damage counters on it, which you probably will, you're gonna be hitting 200. You would plan to accelerate Houndoom to do
Mhm.
to get this paid, and you can hit like 220, 240, which is pretty solid on a stage 1 single prizer. So this was an
Yeah.
okay deck. You played this, I think, some, right?
I think I tried a little
Or
bit.
maybe I did. I don't
I'm
know.
not
It
su
wasn't
Yeah,
that
it
good.
wasn't great. I mean, see, the Rapid Strike Urshifu shows you how good the Rapid Strike Malamar is, because the Malamar is just better than Rapid Strike Urshifu, right? Probably.
Yeah, I guess.
It
But
doesn't
in
it
some
doesn't
ways, it's Malamar, you didn't build so much towards it versus the Urshifu. You need to build towards it, but you can like play other stuff. Malamar, you can't really play other attackers ever.
yeah, I mean,
There's the Rapsec Urshifu you could play with the Zip Strike I said earlier, and then a Phalanx, I think. It's notoriously good in single prize based formats, which is kind of funny.
okay.
Um, yeah,
Because it doesn't need to get to the super high damage level too, which in regular standard you do. So, right. So
yeah.
in regular standard, the single strike could be playable, but they were, once you have the Houndooms and stuff, did you really want to not play the multi-prize single strike cards? That you'd have to, decide on that. So they weren't
Yeah.
great. They weren't great options, but they're options.
hmm and then this is not the Lapras. Let's see what else is good. Oh, there's a Lipard V, which could like discard a tool.
I played
And
that one.
yeah. Wait,
So
what did you play
I'll
that? You played
say
an
I played
Eternatus.
Eternatus, which of course you hated Eternatus anyway. And I put in I put this in when it first came out because I was kind of excited about it because tools were more important back at the time too.
I like what? I mean, there's like Big Charm, I guess.
You had Big
And
Charm,
Cape. There's some, but I felt
Cape.
like
You had
this card got cut. Air Balloon.
Air Balloon, Air Balloon was really important at the time because some decks would just use Air Balloon instead of Switch, right? So if you could stop that, it could cause trouble. And I think there would have been some other, I don't remember. But anyway, it wasn't the greatest thing. But obviously, Eternatus, you can just chuck in dark Pokemon. So it's a 190 V. That HP is low, so that's not good. Hidden Claw, right? When you play it to your bench, you can discard a tool. Again, like you said, it's not the greatest thing. And the attack does 110 for 3 energy. That's
You can
not,
discard your own tool though,
that's true. You could discard your own tool if you
which is
wanted to.
bad.
I don't, right. You probably didn't want to do that. But
There's the card like something drill, which is also good. I don't remember what it was called.
oh, the
There's like
dark one, yeah. Right, that would
there's
discard what,
like
two?
a tool or special energy.
Yeah.
You have to discard a dark Pokemon from your hand. That was okay. Or maybe a Stadium too. It was pretty good. And there's also Tool Scrapper. Lightbright V was not great. It got cut most of the time.
Yeah, I tried it,
Um,
but it wasn't good. And the attack is just not any good either. So I think we've said too much on it.
yeah. This Ampharos, like in the Mareep and Flaffy, or say the Mareep and Ampharos can be played in Flaffy based decks, which is fine. But anyways, now we move on to one of the Pokemon I love from this set, Metagross Vmax, which has this attack, Zap Traction. Search deck for 2 cards and put them into your hand for 1 metal on a Vmax with 330 HP. So the idea is you just like tank lots of hits
Yeah.
and heal up, and then you go ahead and just keep doing that. And hopefully you're putting like decks out. You can also use Max Rush, which does for metal colors, you do 100, but next turn you do 250, which is very solid. So obviously if you get like gusts around, that's bad, but the idea is you just get tons of healing cards in your hand and then eventually max rush for a bunch of turns in a row and then hopefully just to win doing that. And I play this deck a lot. It was really fun. It was really dumb, but it was fun. And silly, you can also do like Cheryl and stuff. So I thought Metagross Vmax is fun.
Yeah, with Cheryl, and obviously you search for 2 cards and 330 HP. The retreat cost of 3. I don't love. Was this the deck you used for the Lin Team Challenge, by the way?
Yeah,
So
I
you
think I
actually
did
and
that.
you won. You qualified. You made the
Yeah,
team with a Metagross
Cheryl.
deck. So that just shows either the quality of this deck or your skill as a player.
Exactly. It's all of the above. Don't worry about the fact that my opponents didn't realize I was playing control until halfway through, which was impressive, but
Because it was
interesting.
open deck list, right?
Yeah.
But-
Anyways, so that was something. I guess we'll talk about Simeon now.
Yeah.
So it says your Rapid Strike do 30 more to your opponent's bench Vs and GX. This was like good, I guess. It was good in Urshifu,
Right,
but
for
it's
Urshifu.
kind of boring. People sometimes play it in Malamar to like snipe stuff. That was a thing, but you didn't do that.
I did once or twice because I did want to try all things in Malamar. And then it can go in with the lightning Pokemon also that we're going to get to at the end, right?
Uh, what?
The Zero RP, right?
Oh yeah,
That's
yeah,
in
yeah.
because that hits the
But
bench
that's fine.
also. So
Yeah.
again, I mean, Rapid Strike Ursa Foods, the main thing it was there for. Um,
You compare with telescopic sight, so then you can be doing
right,
180 snipe, which KOs like Crobats and stuff.
right, which was meaningful, but when it first came out, Crobats were certainly more were played in a decent number of decks, I guess. So it had some value.
Yeah. I think we can skip the Porygon and the Quillfish because
Yeah,
they're whatever. They're not the worst, but whatever.
yeah, they were
Now
played
we come,
some, but
yeah. Now we come to what is possibly the best Pokemon line ever. That being Gardevoir. So there was a Curlia, which is actually a very good search deck for 3 other Curlias and put them onto your bench. Super good. Delayed here does 60 for each V they have in place, so you can get to do
right.
up to you can like one shot turns. It's really good against a turn disc.
Hmm.
It's okay other times. Then you have the Gardevoir, which is really good with Shiny Arcana. You essentially draw 2, but if they're energies, you can accelerate them, basic energies. And Brainwave does 60, but 30 more for each psychic energy attached to this Pokemon. It's the way attacker in the Gardevoir EX deck. It's very good.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's better now than it was originally, right? Because in the Gardevoir EX, this is something you probably want to include one of.
Yeah, and also the B later got the better Curlia. You
Right.
got a better Ralts, well, you definitely got a better Ralts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it got better, but yeah, some of the pieces are there. So, um, all right, we get to talk about my boy, one of my boys next, Anaconda Vmax.
Yeah, I guess we can skip Lycanroc.
Unless you want to, but I'll discuss it
Nah,
later.
nah, nah.
So this is the type of Pokemon I like to play that you like to give me grief over, and this is the type of Pokemon this will be a little lament for PTCGO for a minute because a card like Sandaconda VMAX, which is at best a second tier VMAX, and it's probably a C tier or D tier. Hopefully, it can stay at an F tier. You could get these cards for really cheap in PTCGO because you could trade for like maybe like 2 VMAXs for like 1 pack a lot of times but now in live, which the economy is better, but would cost you just as much to craft a Sandaconda VMAX as an Urshifu VMAX. So therefore, why until you have all the good cards, you're just not going to want to get this card. But it is fun. It's 320 HP, so the goal is for it to be tanky. It's weak to grass, so that was a good weakness to be. And then it had 2 options. A lot of times you do Sand Pulse for 1 energy, so you could share with the deck. It does 60 damage and then 20 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So that one of those ultimate spread decks doing 620 to each bench Pokemon and 6 to the active. So you're just wiping them out. And then you attack Telescopic Sight to get that 30 extra onto the V Maxes and the Vs. So wow, just blowing away your opponents. And then Cyclone V Max or G Max Cyclone, sorry, 180 for 3, and you can move any amount of energy from your Pokemon to your other Pokemon that you want from which was useful, right? Especially if you figured that your Sandaconda VMAX was going to get knocked out, you could set things up for the next turn. So it was a thing that was
Yeah,
okay.
it was like good with Italian engine, I guess. Like
Hmm.
challenge stuff. It's something.
And the V here had the ability. It took 30 less damage, so at 220 HP, it wasn't getting one shot when at the start of the game. So that was a plus too.
Yeah. I think it's honestly not that bad. I don't like it. It's not great, but
Yeah.
there are much worse as well.
You could play it, but obviously there are a lot better choices too. It's something that was if you wanted to mess around with it, it wasn't your games weren't unwinnable.
Yeah. Let's see. Next, we have Cinderace. Cinderace is actually interesting. I know some people who really like the Cinderace. The idea is you can like mustard with it, and then it does 150 for fire colorless. It's single strike, and then this Pokemon's attacks do 30 more for each prize your opponent's Pokemon. So if they've taken five prizes, you're doing 300 with this Pokemon, which is insane. You can buff this up in various other ways to make it even stronger.
Hmm.
So honestly, this hits like super hard, but um, it's a stage 2, so it's awkward.
Right.
But honestly, this was interesting. There's another good Cinderace as well at the time, so it's pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean single strike with the mustard. Then you may have Houndoom, so you can get the damage a little higher with that with the single strike energies, right? Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I mean, I didn't really play it, but it was certainly a legitimate choice, I think, to play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It might not be better than Anaconda, but still.
No, but it's a type of deck thing that's fun to mess around with, though. I think it fits in that category.
Yeah. Next up, do you want to talk about Seviper or do you just want to skip it?
Yeah, no, because I did play this some in a single strike box. So it does it's 110 HP. It's a basic single prize single strike card, and then it does for 3 energy, does 90 damage. It's dark type, which was good for hitting weakness. And then if you played a single strike supporter that turn, which you had Bruno, I'm not sure what else there was. Um, then it did 90 more. So 180, and Bruno was a good supporter. And a single prize deck means you're getting knocked out. So Bruno was an effective supporter. 180, and then you needed to get energy acceleration with Houndoom. So you're doing 200 or 220. So off a single prize basic Pokemon. Not bad, although you needed all the pieces to come together, and that was often a problem.
Yeah, it was kind of weird. Like we talked about the Urshifu, it's kind of like the Urshifu. Um, it obviously doesn't like, it doesn't hit as hard, but it's like easier.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It's like an interesting one. In single strike.
Yeah.
It also was overshadowed by an Evoltolator that had like no effects, but it was kind of funny. It was good in like single strike Lugia. The Survivor is not good in single strike Lugia.
No, no. Well, or no one's cracked it yet. So, you never know, right? You always say Pokemon players aren't that creative in deck building. So, right?
Yeah, but I don't think this is better. Maybe if you want to get super spicy. I don't think I think it just like does less damage and it's just worse.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So next we come up to the big boy in this set, the one that was the best. I think it was the best deck when this came out, right? And that's Shadow Rider Calyrex Vmax. 320 HP, so the HP you expect and want from a Vmax. Um, and then its attack, Max Geist, for 3 energy. It does 10, but then 30 more for each psychic energy attached to all your Pokemon to help things get set up. It had this really good ability, or at least potentially really good ability, because I do find it struggles. Underworld Door, once during your turn, you may attach a psychic energy card from your hand to one of your bench psychic Pokemon. If you do, then you draw 2 cards. So energy acceleration plus draw plus potentially big damage plus fairly tanky equals potentially very strong deck.
Yeah, and this was like really good when it came out.
Yeah.
Notably, there were some other really powerful pieces at the time. But honestly, then it's like kind of come back with certain things.
Hmm.
It's very just I don't know. It's very theoretically strong. So
Yes.
this wasn't a deck I played, and this wasn't really a deck you played either, right?
No, and getting just brief, a PTCO, this card and even Ice Rider, but this in particular first were super expensive. So as a budget player, it was very difficult to get a card like this until the next set came out.
Yeah.
And it was really strong at first, and it did fall off pretty hard not too long after, right?
Yeah, it fell off. Well, so rotation was like kind of after it fell off with rotation, pretty
Hmm.
much.
So, but it was super strong at first, and it's still an option to put in decks or to be its own deck, and it's a strong deck and expanded too, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is because it has like disruption tools, so it's quite
Yeah,
strong.
yeah.
But
So,
and then the V also is kind
oh
of
yeah,
good.
hmm,
It's attack your Shadow Mist. It says your opponent can't play special energies your Stadium next turn.
yeah.
Notably, you could play this in like control based decks to stop special energies altogether, which can just win games.
Right, and then like if you were playing like I would like to play Mad Party in right with the twin energies, right? What they were around at the time. So your Shadow Rider would go second. They do this attack, and all of a sudden I couldn't attack. They only did 10 damage, but I couldn't do anything, right? So
Yeah.
and not playing a stadium too. So it was disruptive and had a place as a useful attacker sometimes.
Yeah. And then
All
what
right.
else? Do you want to talk about Frostlass or Abomasnow? I don't know. I don't really feel like we need to talk about them.
No, I mean, well, Frostlass lets you accelerate some energy. It's an option, but you can look it up yourself. And I don't remember Obama Snow at the moment.
Yeah,
Oh,
my
he was
favorite president. What?
So it boosts, yeah, HP of single strike. Yeah, I don't know that that ever really became a thing. So we want to go to the Inteleon and the Sobble, right?
Yeah, so the Italian engine was obviously very good,
Yep.
but this isn't the reason it was good. But the Sobble let you search for other like Sobbles and Rapstrike Pokemon, so it's
Mm-hmm.
good in Ursa Foods specifically, but set up your other Sobbles.
Yep.
And then Inteleon lets you like ping and place damage counters in play, which is really good as well. Um,
Yep.
yeah, this Inteleon was good.
Yeah, quick shooting, the 2 damage counters on any opponent's Pokemon, and its attack, waterfall, 70 damage isn't huge, but it was too colorless, so it did give you any deck, even a non-water deck, could use this, right? Especially if you're up against a walling deck, right? Like the Decidueye was around, and there were opponents that would have to then go to this at the right time to hit through the Decidueyes and such. So
Yeah, that didn't really work very well, but that was an option.
it was what they would have to do, right, at times, if that was the only way to take a knockout.
Yeah. And then there's a Spiritomb, which is kind of interesting. It's essentially just a Mad Party counter. And I
Yeah.
suppose now it's a United Wings counter. It's not as good a United Wings counter as it is a Mad Party counter, but it just like spreads damage and like shelves their opponent's Pokemon back in. It's
Mhm.
very annoying.
Right. Yeah. If United Wings becomes really big, I don't think it's going to get bigger than it is now. You could just toss this in to cause some grief there.
Yeah. There's also a Slurpuff that's a yeah, Control One. Tornadus VMAX was a deck at one point. It's like a single strike VMAX, but it's not great. It's just kind of worse than Umbreon and Urshifu.
Yeah, it wasn't really worth using. I don't think you had better options. So there. Yeah, but there's not a lot here, right? We have. Is there anything?
Yeah.
Oh, is there
No,
anything
there's
before?
two. There's two.
Yeah. So Beedrill and Zeraora, right? That's it.
Yeah, so I'll cover Beedrill. Beedrill is possibly one of my favorite Pokemon ever. Notably because of a deck called Beefeon, which was really funny and really dumb. But pretty much what it did is focus on this Beedrill. You can put into play
Mm-hmm.
with Mustard, which just puts Pokemon directly into play.
Yep.
It was kind of complicated, but anyways, you can put Beedrill into play, and this actually saw tons of play. It says for one grass, if your opponent's active as any special energy, it's instantly knocked out, which is obviously just really good. And
Yep.
so you pull this off, and then you just can KO anything, which is super strong.
Yeah. And the second attack, Jet Energy, 110 for one
Yes,
energy.
Spear.
Jet Spear, sorry, yeah. For one isn't bad. You discard the energy, but if you're working a one shot, obviously, if they didn't have special energy, the 110 still was an option that was useful at times. And this
Yeah.
did see competitive play, Beedrill in some decks, right, to counter the special
You
energy
drill with, yeah, people play it with Arceus specifically.
yeah. So yeah. So it's there, and it's still obviously a
And they played
consideration.
it with Anaconda. They played Beedrill, Arceus, Anaconda. That was actually a deck.
So
It was good. That was good.
yeah. So there's a lot of basic energy in the game too right now. But if special energy becomes more dominant, keep that in mind to toss it in.
Mhm.
And then the last Pokemon, Zeraora V, a Rapid Strike. It's 210 HP, so that's okay. Prefer it to be a little higher. It's weak to fighting, so again, that's not ideal. But a Rapid Strike Pokemon, and then Cross Fist attack for 3 energy. Lightning colorless. When I would attack with it, I usually would use it with Blaziken with the Spiral Energy to help get it set up. But it does 100 damage for 3 energy. And if one of your other Rapid Strike Pokemon used an attack during the last turn, and I think it could have been another Zeraora V also, then it does 160 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So 160 is a very good number, right? That was there weren't many things that could hit the bench harder than Zeraora V, as well as doing 100 to the active.
Yeah. So and with the like Simeon plus telescopic sight, you could
Mm-hmm.
be hitting 220 on the bench, which was really good for
Yeah.
sniping Vs. So that was kind of scary. In the end, it was just very awkward. There's a deck you'd play with like
Yeah.
Sobble and like the Intellion engine. He's like Zeraora.
Yeah, that was really high roll. If it worked, it was the
Well,
greatest
if your
thing
opponent
ever.
like didn't care with the Sobble, you'd just kind of lose.
Yeah, but you'd attack. You could you could go second, right? Even you'd attack with Sobble, accelerate
You
to your.
had to go second.
Yeah, well, you'd
You
prefer.
had to, well, if you went first, you'd need to still attack with Sobble.
Right, you still need to attack with something else with the Sobble, and and then you set up your bench, and then you can hopefully cross fist for a big attack the next turn. Um, but that wasn't great. And like I said, Blaziken was probably a better way to play it, and actually was a deck that, look, I could play Blaziken's Aurora in PTZ. I remember checking it. I played it a bunch, and I had like a 500% win rate. So 50% win rate,
500% win rate. That's
50%. I was
insane.
thinking baseball, but 50% win rate, which isn't bad, right? That you kind of settle there, so it means it's an okay deck.
Yeah. Okay, but let's talk about the trainers, which are like pretty insane. Some of these.
Yeah,
Let's see. I don't know which one. I guess you talk about Avery. I
yeah.
guess.
I know you hate Avery, so but it's a decent card. It's still so you draw 3 cards, which is fine, and then if you draw any cards this way, your opponent discards Pokemon from the bench until they have 3. Now that could be bad, which is partly why you hate it, because your opponent might they'll discard their damaged like Vmax Pokemon, right, with 10 HP left. So
Yeah, or they'll discard their like Luminions and all their like vulnerable Pokemon and stuff.
but if you're up against Gardevoir and that's filled up with Curlias, or you're up against Lost Zone with all the comfies and everything in play, look, it is disruptive to a lot of decks, right? So it's true too, right? That there are decks that want a full bench and that have a hard time getting Pokemon back into play, depending how they're built. So it's an option. It's not the worst card, even despite the fact that you think it is.
Yeah, I think it's just like a bad version of Hop, but it's fine. It has minor uses. Then there's Brawley, which is whatever. But you have some like gloves. Dynatree Hill is a stadium that stops healing, which is fine.
Yeah.
Echoing Horn is good though. Echoing Horn put a
Yes.
basic Pokemon for your opponent's discard onto their bench. It is Rapid Strike as well, so you can use it to punish like a Pokemon that's Rapid Strike, or that's not any Pokemon in a Rapid Strike deck.
Right.
So then you can just like get back like whatever, like a low HP Pokemon to KO it super easily, or a slightly high HP Pokemon for like 2 prizes, and it was quite good. And you do this with ADP as well. And then you can also use it in control to like get Pokemon stuck. I know Mew VMAX sometimes plays it for some reason. It's just a nice card overall.
Right. It's a good card when it's a Rapid Strike card and it's not just played in Rapid Strike decks, which this was.
And then let's see, Fan of Waves. Wait, no.
That was just a special print of it. It didn't originally come out in the set. So
Flannery is another nice disruption tool. Allow you to discard special energy from your hand and then discard a stadium in play. In my opinion, this is actually noticeably better than what's the card? Giacomo? What's it?
Giacomo?
Giacomo. Yeah, there we go. The Flannery is better than it. Just a little. It depends. If your opponent's like bad. Was it Giacomo?
Giacomo, which gets rid of a special energy from each of their Pokemon, right?
Yeah. But Flannery is a little better, I think.
You have to discard the stadium though, right? So if you had like a path to the peak down and you wanted to get rid of their special energy, you'd loot the path to the peak, I believe. So
usually it's better, I think.
Yeah.
Obviously don't like
it's not the best card ever, right?
No.
It's not as good as Echoing Horn. It's really not as good as the next card, right?
Yeah, Fog Crystal.
Yeah. Which obviously Shadow Rider came out, so it's a natural pair with that. You search your deck for a basic Psychic Energy or a basic Psychic Pokemon, put it into your hand. So a really, really, really good card for decks that want it, right? And of course, made Rapid Strike Malamar just that much better, and that's one of the things that we should all care about.
Yeah.
But it's a very good card, right?
Yeah. So it's good. It's good in Gardevoir, it's good in Shadow Rider, it's good in Malamar, it's good in I'm sure it was good in something else as well.
Yeah, it's for the decks that wanted it. It was good. So.
Yeah. Oh, Karen's Conviction is interesting. It buffs damage from single strike Pokemon for each prize your opponent's taken. It's actually quite strong. It doesn't see a ton of play. We can play with notably Duraludon. Actually, really likes it. It allows you to hit numbers that are just good. So that's interesting.
And it probably deserves a little more play in Duraludon decks now, right? It probably deserves a spot in decks, or at least a consideration.
Yeah, and it's good against certain matchups, but it's not that good.
No.
I think Clara allows you to recover up to 2 Pokemon from your discard and 2 basic energy from your discard into your hand.
Yep.
It's okay. It's seen a lot of play.
Well, it's a very good card, right? It goes in decks on a consistent basis. Some decks like this card.
Yeah, I think it's generally outclassed by like Super Rod, Ordinary Rod. But those
Hmm.
were in format for a little while, so clearly I
Right.
saw a bunch of play. So it's all right.
And when the dark box, right, where you wanted to get uh,
Moltres.
right, the baby Moltres into play with some energy, so you can accelerate to it for the big damage. It again, it's a useful card. I mean, it's a better card than Karen's Conviction in general, I would say.
Yeah, it's a solid card. It's nice, but I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's a solid card.
Yeah.
When you want to talk about Melanie, though,
Yeah, this is a supporter I love. Melanie, you had Ice Rider, so it's the natural pairing with that. And with any water deck with V Pokemon, you attach a water energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon V and draw 3 cards. So energy acceleration and drawing cards, very good. It was put together with the Rapid Strike Urshifu Vmax, so you could stream your attacks there. Just a nice option for a lot of decks. And you did have the Intellion engine at the time too, so that's why the Ice Rider Intellion engine Melanie was a very solid package.
yeah. I think it was good. Palkia,
Hmm.
Urshifu played this sometimes, and
Yeah.
like tons of decks played it. It's good. It still sees play.
Right. I mean, and if you have V Pokemon and Water Energy, you're almost always going to put Melanie in the deck. And if you have a
Uh-huh.
V deck that's colorless and that's colorless largely, you can choose a basic type. Sometimes you will choose Water Energy sometimes just to use Melanie.
Um, yeah.
Right. I mean, So I do want to talk about Old Cemetery.
No, I don't really think we need to talk about that. It's
That's
it's an okay card.
right. It's okay, but that's fine. And then you want to talk about the good stadium here, Path to the Peak.
Yeah. So Path to the Peak is good, as you said, and pretty much what it does, it turns off Rulebox Pokemon's abilities,
Yeah.
which is very good. So notably, if you're like Shadowfire we talked about, really needs this ability. Dedenne, Crobat,
Hmm.
Lumineon, Squawkabilly all need abilities. To make them good, and yeah, Path just shuts it down completely. There are so many decks in the game that are hurt by this a ton. It's just like one of the most disruptive cards, if not the most disruptive card in the game right now. You
Yep.
compare this with other disruption cards like Crushing Hammer, Marnie, which isn't in the game, or Judge, or Iono, and just
Hmm.
really annoy your opponent and just completely destroy them with this.
Yeah. I mean, it was a huge card when it came out, and still is now. When it first came out, we had Chaotic Swell, so you could control it better. Now it's harder to deal with. Um, was this like the first time that they used this rule box terminology on cards? Like with
No, it
this?
was Empoleon V, which is the set before.
Okay.
This was pretty new.
Okay, it was early days with that, but not when it first came out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then I'll talk about Peonia. Peonia
Yep.
says put 3 of your face down prize into your hand. Then for each prize card in this, you token this way, put a card from your hand back as a face down prize card. This has a few interesting options, but most notably, it allows you to get cards out of your prizes that you want in your deck. If you prize something, got a bit unlucky,
Hmm.
it's very useful for control based decks, or any deck that requires a lot of one ofs, notably V Union decks. It's so crucial. Um,
Yep.
yeah, it's a very good card.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've played it some. You've played it a lot because you do have done more control than I have. So it goes in a number of decks. I'll talk briefly about Peony, if I may. So it was went in my Delmize deck, which I certainly enjoyed. You discard your hand, search for up to 2 trainer cards. So it's useful, is what I'll say. Decks where, like in Delmize, you would get either a stadium. Well, you could get a stadium. Yeah, trainer. So you get a stadium. You could get your rare candy and an Evo Incense, which we don't have in format now, to get your Rillaboom and your rare candy, so it had some usefulness.
Yeah, it was
Sorry.
it was pretty solid. I don't know, it's not great. I'm trying to think. I think there
No.
was some synergies that like it was like really good in. People used to play like Mew VMAX back in the day.
Yeah, I mean you
Um,
could get. Yeah, I mean if you need a rare candy and you didn't want Irida, you could use this as a way to help get that. I don't know. It's not as strong though as it used to be.
yeah. Um, and then let's see, we got Rapid Strike Skull of Skies. This was actually interesting. I don't know what it was interesting in, but it was interesting in something. It
Yes.
allowed some interesting combos to.
So
The
so
rise
these
also.
so these scrolls, they're either Rapid Strike or Single Strike. They can only be attached to the Rapid Strike or Single Strike card, and then it gave a optional attack that you could use. So here, I'm not sure that this was an attack that really got used much. So
Good against I don't know. There are sometimes when it's good, but it opens up some interesting ideas. Notably, you could play in Jump Luff, and
mhm.
I don't remember. You could play it in some things. It was kind of fun. It wasn't
Yeah,
great, but it was interesting.
and it does allow you to pair it with different types of Pokemon to hit for different weaknesses, but that would then share the same attack because of the tool. I guess you could try that. Um, because it's always going to be lightning colorless, the attack cost.
Yeah. Any other trainers you want to talk about from the set?
Let's no. Well, Welcoming Lantern was good. That came out here because
Wasn't that good.
well, it was really good in the Bruno deck.
Oh, the Lunatone?
Lunatone Solrock. I thought that was a solid option there. It
Yeah.
gets back a single stripe supporter. So Bruno is if you wanted just to kind of run with a lot of Brunos and with Pokestop, sorry, you're discarding your supporters, you get the Welcoming Lantern to hand. So it's still an option if you have if for the right deck. It's probably not great, but it has a potential place.
Yeah. Um, and then let's see the trainer or the special energies. So
Right.
there are three. There's the rapid strike one, which saw playing Malamar. There's the single strike one, which saw
Yep. Impact
I
energy.
guess it's impact, which she's playing in Lugia, right? That
Yeah,
was the thing.
and there might have been if you had either the rapid strike or single strike, they provided any type of energy to the rapid or single strike Pokemon. So if the regular rapid or single strike energy didn't provide the types you need, you could include this obviously to help pay for the attack. Like if you're using Zero or a V, the spiral energy got the lightning energy cost that you needed aspect of it.
Yeah,
And
it was okay.
I'm not just, and there were single strike decks that also had some other attackers that needed a different energy type that might include this. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah.
They weren't great.
And then lucky energy, right? You played this one?
A little bit, yeah. In certainly in Blissey because it's always good in Blissey, right? So it provides one colorless energy, and if it's damaged from your opponent's attack, you draw a card, right? So it special energy just gets you an extra card. So it has some value in some decks.
Yeah, it was okay. It wasn't that good, but it was interesting. And
Yeah,
now it's like almost it's not directly outclassed, but it's kind of outclassed by gift energy, which draws till you have 7 when your Pokemon is KO'd, which is quite good.
right. I mean, Blissey, ideally, it's being tanky. So if you're not getting knocked out, it gets you that extra card, right? So it has some potential use. But yeah, it's the special energies aren't huge in this set, I'd say.
Yeah. But I think that's it for this set, right?
Yeah, I think we covered
It was a
things.
good set. A lot of cards that I clearly don't like, but that's fine.
But there were a lot of viable cards, I think for sure, right?
Yeah.
It gave a lot of options to play, and that's what I think part of what you want in a set.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. It's an interesting set. Although not like my favorite set, but it's cool. Um, and it introduced like some really powerful cards as well. The horses, the Shadow and Ice Rider, very good.
Path to
Yeah,
the
I think
Peak, which
that's
is just a huge card since it was first printed and will stay huge until it rotates, I assume.
yeah.
So
Um, but yeah, I think that's it. So we hope you enjoyed. And yeah, if there's anything else you want, obviously we did it live. It was pretty much normal, but you can just tune in for that. I don't know if we're gonna do it again. I don't have any live stream scheduled, but that's a thing.
yeah,
But yeah, please tell us any feedback you have as well,
yeah. If you'd
and check us
like,
out on Spotify.
right, check us Spotify or whatever podcast app you want. If you like the idea of a live stream and us trying to set up a schedule, let us know. I can't guarantee that we'll do that, but it's something we definitely will consider.
Yep. See you next time.
Take care.